Hey friend, welcome to the Halfway to Dead podcast. I'm your host, Jen Lovell. Listen, you and I have reached that age where we are done with the bullshit. We know that midlife is our chance to flip the script and experience life on our own terms. It's time to reconnect with our higher selves and reclaim our inner peace. Are you ready with an open heart and an open mind? Awesome, you're in the right place. Hop in and ride shotgun with me on this midlife spiritual journey. Hey guys, welcome back. So today I interviewed Traci Trimble. Tracy is a bioenergetic therapist, spiritual guide, and teacher. Tracy's work is within the layers of your human bioenergetic field, the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual energy that surrounds and supports us. Her entry into the profession of energy work began with training in yoga, Reiki, and psychotherapy. She then received a PhD in metaphysical sciences, specializing in energy medicine. And then she went on to get her doctorate in metaphysical psychology, specializing in epigenetics. Most recently, embarking in a certification in psychedelic-assisted therapy as a shamanic apprentice. Her private practice and courses are based in developing a conscious mastery of self. She helps you access your human being user manual, as she calls it, and aligns you with the natural laws of the universe. So in today's conversation with Tracy, we go over some of her personal journey story because she's got a great story of what led her to where she is currently. And then we dig into one of the readings she offered. It's the soul. And then we dig into one of the readings she offers, the Soul Reveal reading. I had this reading with Tracy 2 years ago, and during this episode, I share clips from that actual live reading. And so you guys know that I'm a private person, but I'm going to share this with you guys. I'm going to share these clips because I believe that where I was 2 years ago is probably where a lot of you are right now. And so I think that what she said to me, I think a lot of you guys are going to identify with. So I'm going to share it. She also talks about how she uses her intuition to tap into your Akashic records. And then she guides you back to your divine assignment path and what your, as Tracy calls it, your fear story is. We touch a little bit on her experience in BETR therapy and kind of all the programs she offers, but we mostly focus on that Soul Reveal reading because it helped me so much. And I think it'll help you too. So let's jump in and hear what my Soul Reveal reading had to say and how she helped me get back on my divine assignment path and how she might be able to help you do this too. If this episode resonates with you, you're going to reach out to Tracy. Am I right? All right, let's jump in and just hear everything she has to share with us today. Hey, Tracy, thanks for being here with me today. I'm excited to share what Tracy has with you guys. So let's just start with how did you get where you're at in your journey right now? And you can go as in detail or not as you want. I mean, we don't have to start from the day you were born, Tracy, but when did you really feel this spiritual journey kind of ramping up for you and felt called towards what you're doing now?
When I look at it in hindsight, it was really late before I was even consciously aware of this path. But when I really pay attention, it was always there. I just ignored it. I always knew things about people that now I realize didn't make sense that I knew that, and other people didn't know those things. I was around 28 years old before I realized that I was channeling and that I knew information about people. And I found out in a casual conversation at work, actually, where I was kind of doing an analysis on coworkers, and my peer was like, how do you have time to sit down with them and know all that? And I didn't sit down with them. You don't know that just by being with them and talking to them. And I kind of let it go, but it's been an instrumental moment for me. And so my story kind of begins. I was a executive vice president of an alcoholic beverage company, and my role was literally traveling around the world and destroying smaller businesses for the resources we wanted. And I thought, oh, crap. And I didn't know what was wrong. I had had cancer in my early 20s and something wasn't right. I had been just, you're off. Something
Yeah.
isn't, but you
Yeah.
don't equate it to your job or your marriage or your own character being out of alignment. Automatically, it's got to be a health issue. And so I went back to my oncologist. Nothing was wrong. He sent me to a blood specialist. Nothing was wrong. I went to my GP and I was like, I am not okay. And so he sent me to a psychiatrist. And within 20 minutes of not even really asking me anything, she diagnosed me with meds for the rest of my life. She told me I was clinically depressed and I would require meds for the rest of my life. And there was that anger and rage that I didn't know was the problem that immediately boiled up in me. And I just wanted to punch her because she gave me the wrong answer. And still, that wasn't a red flag that there was something wrong. And the universe was just like, I've had it with you, Trace. You're not listening. You got no idea what's going on here. And our bonus that year was pretty large, 6 figures. And part of the bonus required that we had a physical every year. And I was traveling so much, I hadn't had time to have a physical, but I'd seen my oncologist, a blood specialist, my doctor. I knew there was nothing wrong with me. I was fine. And so I signed off on a human resources document that they could contact my doctor. The front page,
Mm.
diagnosed with clinical depression, refuses medication.
Oh,
That was the
geez.
end for me. The universe just walked in and went, we're going to mess this all up. And long story short, I was terminated at a boardroom table in front of my peers. They couldn't have a woman at the helm of their organization who was mentally unstable.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
And while in that moment, my whole identity was destroyed, I was a workaholic. My marriage had ended in a very unfortunate way. I hadn't spent a lot of time with my friends in the last couple of years because I'd been traveling the world building this financial empire. And all I had at the end of the day was money and a body that was angry. It everything set me into a state of rage. And I was introduced to Reiki through my mom, who I also had no relationship. I had estranged myself from her in my early 20s because she was a whack job. Like she was a Reiki master. She spoke to trees. She used all these herbs. Like she was just a wackadoodle.
Well, okay. So you were raised like that.
No, I wasn't really raised. I was in my mid to late teens when she shifted into her true and authentic self, and that bothered me a lot. And I just left. I just ran away. And it's probably, in hindsight, the mirror was just too much for me to look at and say, you're going to get right into your 50s and not be your true and authentic self. Watch your mom, learn your lesson. Nope, no way. Just go off and do whatever I had to do to be in that masculine dominating patriarchal world and be successful. And so this long story gets short by someone introduced me to Reiki and I was like, I know what that is. Like my mom does that. I know what that is. And I was like, nope, that's not for me. And so I ignored it, even though the treatments were working and I was feeling really great. I found meditation that actually started to help. I want to say that now that I'm a doctor of metaphysical psychology and a Reiki master teacher, and I have all of these certifications, what I realize and what I know and what I want to share to all humanity is that diagnosis of depression is rage. It's stuck in the past and anger that controls and compels you, and it really leads you down a path of self sabotage. And I didn't recognize any of that. I was probably 34, 35, 36 before I was like, oh, I'm not okay. And that's when everything changed for me. I started with Reiki. I got my Reiki 3 degrees of Reiki. That took me about a year and a half. I got my yoga teacher training. I did some bioenergetic therapy. I did my first PhD. I did my second PhD. And here I am now in a world where my purpose on this planet is, with permission, to channel the human being user manual, the divine assignment, your actual blueprint, why you came to this space and time. But I realized that I couldn't be here in my true and authentic self if I hadn't have traveled that path of pain and suffering. If I hadn't, yeah, I hadn't let that rage destroy everything that I thought I wanted, which none of it was in my highest good. And so that's my base story.
You're talking about what you're doing now. So tell me exactly what, before we get into, one of your readings. So the reading I had with her was the Soul Reveal reading, and we're going to focus on that today mostly. But what exactly are you channeling? What are you tapping into?
That's a really great question. So through universal life force energy, I tap into the Akashic record of this timeline. I read the frequency and vibration of the cellular memory of your body. And so I know your truth. The difference between your truth and your reality is that your truth is soul, your feelings and your breath, ego, your thoughts and your imagination as one, working through your body. That's your truth, your whole self. The reality that we create is ego, whose role is supposed to be navigating the outside world to protect us, has now taken control. And so our thoughts are the basis of what we experience. Our thoughts create our reality, but it's our feelings that amplify the vibration of it and create what we truly want. So if we think something, but we don't think we're worthy of feeling it, we're sabotaging our feelings, or we're terrified to drop into what we feel, we're not going to create what's in our highest good. We're going to create what the collective reality is. And so my gift is channeling that frequency and vibration. I hear it, I see it, I feel it, and I can connect and communicate in some way. And I've been doing that my whole life. I just didn't know that other people weren't doing that until I was in my mid to late 20s. And you don't know that about other people? And it took me again until my mid to late 30s to find out what channeling was. I literally channel your soul's voice.
Okay. Through the Akashic records, because we've talked to others who also tap into Akashic records, and some just focus more on like your past lives or things like that, but you're actually feeling our energy.
Yeah, so if I can do a little bit of education, there are 4 types of channels. The first is a psychic. They have the ability to read the frequency and vibration of the timeline. Through the Akashics, they know what has already happened, what's happening now, and what will happen if nothing changes. And second, there is a medium. They have the ability to read the frequency and vibration of a soul's energy who's no longer in material body form. And then there's a translator. That's what I am. We translate the frequency and vibration of the individual cellular memory, and we align it with the Akashic record. There's a silver hara line that each individual has that goes through their pineal at the center of their forehead, that channels down into their heart, the center of their chest, and down into their biome, just below their belly button. And in every given moment, like a radio being on all of the time, messages are being channeled into the biome, and the cells are interpreting them, feeding them back to soul as feelings and back to ego as thoughts. But if we're blocked at the biome, if our gut health is physically destroyed, or we're not giving permission to connect to source, those messages are muted and we don't hear them. But I have the ability to see them and to bring soul back into alignment with feeling, ego back into alignment with thought, and then unify with that, with the body. And then with your permission, I come into your biofield and I communicate with that information. And for me specifically, I've become an expert at what we call the human being user manual, which is a divine blueprint that we all have within our cellular memory that we were meant to remember when we arrived here. But for at least 10 generations, the grandparents stopped teaching the grandchildren how to read this energy, how to connect to Mother Earth and divine intelligence at the same time. That's what the first 3 or 4 years of our life is supposed to be. But here we end up with parents who don't speak energy anymore. And it takes us 3 years just to figure out how to communicate. And so we create all of this trauma because we don't understand where we are or why we're here anymore.
That all makes sense. And that's why a lot of these feelings and different things we have going on as they come up in midlife or any other time, we get sick if we don't deal with them properly. I mean, that's kind of how I feel about it. Okay, so let's talk about this soul reveal reading. You keep talking about if I have permission. So you always ask permission when you're starting out. Like, do I have permission to read? Because do you walk into a room and just you kind of know everything about everybody?
I can, and and we can giggle about that, but it's very uncomfortable.
Very heavy, very heavy.
It's very uncomfortable. The responsibility of wanting to be in service and helping people could be very overwhelming. I'm very fortunate, and I'll share this as my soul reveal reading, which I'll explain later, but I'm male masculine taker. And so our 3 divine assignment pieces are our gender energy, which is male or female. This has nothing to do with our physical body or our sexuality. It's literally the energy that we create that shows us how to be in alignment with our truth. It's only been a little over 200 years that man and male and masculine were even put in the same box. None of that's true.
Our biological gender has nothing to do with the energy of our soul.
That's right. And the natural law of gender is how we create our reality. And there's one of 2 ways. There's only 2 ways of perceiving everything because we live here in the 3rd dimension under the natural law of polarity. And so in gender energy, there is male or female. And it simply means that when you're male, is that you create reality by being task oriented. You're a seed planter. You're here to learn as much information as possible and then to share that information. Just keep sharing what you learn. So that female energy, who are the seed nurturers, can grab a hold of that wisdom and nurture it into something brand new so that we're always evolving. So if male energy is task oriented, female energy is mission oriented, which is challenging for female energy because it's a real process. You guys need to learn about yourselves and the world around you, and then you need to process it for your own self so that you can embody it or create something new or align with it. And then finally, the 4th part is you're here to share your wisdom. How many people on this planet never share their wisdom because they believe that they're not worthy? They've got this imposter syndrome chatting in their ear, telling them that who are you to help other people? Your physical health, your relationships, your finances are in disarray. Well, none of those things are spiritual. Your physical well-being, your relationships, your finances, those aren't part of your purpose. They're the perks of being human.
Yeah.
In that first divine assignment, you're male or female. I'm male, so I'm task-oriented. You are female, so
I'm
you're
female. Yeah.
oriented. Yeah. Before I go into that, we're going to have listeners right now that are going to be like, oh yeah, I'm task-oriented. I must be male energy. Whoa, hold on. Are you task-oriented because you've needed that skill to survive?
Mm-hmm.
If you're task-oriented and you're thriving, you're male energy.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, because we may think we're one or the other, but that's because we're out of alignment right now.
Right. And we're in survival mode. We found cool tools to help us be loved and accepted by others and not knowing what we need to be loved and accepted by ourselves.
Perfect. Because then, and I'm going to play you guys, some clips from my sessions. And these were 2 years ago. So let's talk about, because the next one is your true energy type or your path. Tell me a little bit about that. And then when she's done, because I fall on the feminine side of this one too. So, and I'll tell you what she said during my reading about that.
Cool.
Okay. So tell us about the difference in that masculine, feminine.
Our second divine assignment is our true energy type. I like to call it a path. For those of us born in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, we came to this space and time with an absolute purpose, a promise to source of what we were going to do here, an understanding that we're here to heal the generational trauma so we can elevate to this fifth dimensional conscious awareness. But we also didn't know if it was going to happen in our lifetime. It was such a big job. And so in that moment between the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, we kind of divided the tasks. So I want you to think of this true path as there are only two ways to experience your reality that's in alignment. And if you're on the wrong path, you're gathering the wrong tools, you're moving at the wrong pace, you're learning the wrong lessons. So when you get to the end of the path, and you need to slay a dragon and you have a spoon, you're going to fail that mission.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
It's not going to work out. And so these two paths are the masculine and the feminine. Again, this has nothing to do with New Ageism creating the divine feminine and the divine masculine. It has nothing to do with yin and yang needing to be in balance under the natural law. It's literally, what is your right true path? For masculine energy, it's very fast moving. It's action oriented. We have to think before we feel. And there are elements of risk that we have to take. If we're not all in on something, then we're going to abandon or release. We're going to check out, but we're not going to tell anybody. And so that causes them harm and us harm. With feminine energy, it's a slow moving path. You guys create by allowing, and you need to feel things before you think them. And here's something that's really interesting and exciting, not necessarily part of the soul reveal reading, but important to recognize. For the last 6,000 years, we've been in a patriarchy where masculine energy has been considered the end-all be-all. And so a lot of people with true feminine energy have learned to survive by going too fast, doing too much, thinking and not feeling, taking unnecessary risks. And that literally causes disease in your body. These two paths require you to be in alignment because you're collecting the right tools in the right way and in the right information. So let's go back to your soul reveal reading for just a moment. You're female, feminine. It means that you chose this space and time because you wanted to be on a mission to learn as much about yourself and this planet as possible, to process what you learned for yourself first, to create new and inspiring ways, just like you're doing now with this podcast, to share your wisdom with the world. But for you, when you're in alignment, you're doing that slowly. You're coming from your heart, not your mind. And you're allowing what you need to show up. And importantly, you're there paying attention when what you need shows up. So those are the first two divine assignments.
Those are the first two. So I want to play one clip here. So I had this reading, like I told you guys, about 2 years ago. So I was much earlier in my spiritual journey here. It was beginning of 2023 when I had this done. So, and I've talked to you guys about how I had to start, I've been doing the work, right? So this readings like this are some of the things that can help trigger what exact work needs done. So when we were talking about my energy type or my path, so this is what she said for me, because I was doing exactly what she just explained to you guys. I was in survival mode, doing the masculine energy thing when I wasn't really supposed to be. So let's see. Let me just see if I can play this for you guys.
challenge for you, Jennifer. You're actually feminine energy. This has nothing to do with what New Ageism has created as the divine feminine and the divine masculine. We're all divine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not what yin and yang is trying to create as balance according to the natural laws. It's literally, what path are you on, and is it your right path? So you've been chameleoning as masculine. You've been going too fast. You've been doing too much. You've been doing, taking action. And that is exhausting. And it literally makes you want to crawl into a little box because you're feminine energy. What that means is that you need to slow down, specifically your thoughts. You need to slow your thoughts down so that your emotions, your feelings, have the ability to catch up to either be equal or even more powerful. Your superpower is your emotional comprehension. But I feel such a great, I don't want to create anything for you, but I feel like you're afraid of your emotions. Like there is fear of having to look at what you're feeling. And why should you? Because you can reason it out or compartmentalize it.
Okay, you guys, that's what she told me. And as I look back, I mean, that was spot on for 2 years ago because I was in the midst of trying to not go because I'd been, this was one of the many times I was told, slow down, because I was always like, okay, what do I need to do next? I think I'm in a spiritual journey, which and I wanted to learn and do. And everyone kept saying, oh, stop it. Like you need to slow down. These things need to come more slowly to you. So is that a kind of a common thing as you do these readings?
It's been more common probably the last 3 years because we're literally we were moving into 2025. These 3 years leading up to 2025 were the end of patriarchy, the end of that toxic masculine being where the standard for everyone. And this year, 2025, it's the year of the snake. It's the year of transitioning, shedding the old skin, freeing ourselves from what was never meant to be ours. So this year is going to be challenging for most people because the tools that we've had for the last 6,000 years, they're obsolete. They're not working anymore. And so this year is all about figuring out how to transform, how to shed the skin and start anew because we're moving into 6,000 years of matriarchy. So we've changed from action-oriented, fast-moving, aggressive energy into a slow, gentle, and nurturing way of being. But the truth is, we don't know how to do that.
Yeah. So let me ask this. So because the same as you are biologically a female, but you're a masculine energy. So in the same way, there are men who have been masking masculine and they actually have more of a feminine energy. So we're not talking about just biological women taking over biological men. No, we're just talking about the energy, everyone's energy becoming a little bit more to the feminine side now, where we slow down, where we aren't as analytical. So will people in 2025 that are masculine, male energy have an easier time if they were already living in their true masculinity?
No, we're not. We're actually going to have more challenging of a time because for 6,000 years, it was okay for us to be toxically masculine.
Okay.
And it's not okay anymore. That masculine now needs to shift from aggressive and controlling, making things happen, forcing, to still being action oriented, still being quick moving, still being taking those risks. But now our responsibility is to protect the feminine, to be more respectful of, instead of standing above that energy, we are now in alignment with that energy. And so the challenge here, though, is that for people who don't know what their divine assignment pieces are, this is like a whirlwind because everything that has been passed down through their generational cellular memory says this is how the world works. And all of a sudden there's this stop sign that says, no, it doesn't work that way anymore. And even for me, I really do this work. I have cultivated a life in which every morning I have 90 minutes. Once I wake up, I drink a glass of water and I put my journal on my lap. I meditate. I do energy medicine. I write in my journal. I pull an oracle card for the day. I sit in all of my patients and my community members' energy to see what they need from me today so that I can be the vessel to call in what they need to receive. But I do that in such a organized, detailed way that even that hasn't been working for me. In the past, I would drink my water, meditate, do my Reiki, A, B, C, D. And, even since December 28th, it's been so visceral. It's been so physical. The masculine energy doesn't need to be aggressive anymore. And so my routine can ease up. I don't have to be so intense. And someone who does this work and channels this information, and I've been getting this information for the last 3 years that this is about to happen, and I still struggled through the beginning of January doing the same thing because that was the habit.
And it sounds like we all just need to find our authentic selves so we know which path we're supposed to be on. Because if we're all putting out the energy our soul was meant to put out, everything's going to work really well, right?
Really well. And the cool thing is that every single one of us knows that in at least glimpses. A lot of people are in unconscious incompetence. They don't know what they don't know. And that the ceiling to get out of that is hard. That's the dark night of the soul, is coming out from underneath the soil and breaking up into, oh my gosh, I didn't know that I didn't know what I didn't know. But that also then moves into conscious incompetence. We still don't know, but we're super excited to figure it out. But that gets us to this glorious place of conscious competence. We know and we are who we want to be. But there are these moments of unconscious competence where everything just flows. We don't even know how that happened. And we can call that, gifts from the universe, luminosity, coincidence, whatever we want to call it. But that's what that moment of unconscious competence gives us. And whether we're on our own path or not, we have moments where we veer off without even realizing it. And so the divine assignment's purpose is to show you exactly how you respond in a negative way to being out of alignment so that you can instantaneously be like, oh, wow, for me, let's, for example, say my second fear story, which is my paternal father's generational trauma, is vengeance. And it's when I have to prove that I'm right. And so 2 and 2 work together. So my second divine assignment is partnered with my second fear story. When I'm not in alignment with my masculine energy, when I'm going too slow, I'm processing too much, I'm stuck in my feelings, vengeance is going to come up, not to punish me, but to say, you're not in alignment with masculine. That's why you're not in the flow. And I'm able to shift instantaneously. And it's a subtle sensation in my body that after all these years, I know, oh, that will be vengeance in about 2 days if I don't get back into alignment with my masculine.
Yep. You got to look in the mirror and turn it back around. So the divine assignment path. So we've talked about the gender energy, and then like our true energy, our path. And then the final piece to that is the navigation type, correct?
Yeah. We have 3 divine assignments. Our first is our gender energy, how we create our reality. Our second is our true energy path, what it feels like when we're in alignment. And then our third divine assignment is our navigation type. It's about who we truly are and who we need to align ourselves with and who we shouldn't. And this isn't saying that other people aren't good or bad, but not everyone is for us, and we're not for everyone. So when we're spirit energy standing at the precipice of channeling into this earth energy, choosing this timeline, we decide who we're going to be because there's going to be billions of other sovereign beings having their own independent life of thoughts, feelings, and experiences. And all of those stories aren't meant to intermingle. They're just not. And so we have 5 navigation types, and I'll go through each of them quickly. There is the giver, the taker, the egalitarian, the parent, and the child energy. The challenge with a lot of these is their stories have been corrupted. Like a parent energy doesn't mean you have to be a mom or a dad. It has nothing to do with that. A lot of people think taker is negative because taking is bad, or child is horrible. An adult shouldn't be acting childlike. One of the things that I'll share with you with the whole big Taylor Swift thing last year, she's child energy through every fiber of her being, and she owns it. And she is literally shamed for acting like a child in this collective social experience. But that's her full-on truth. It's why she manifests like a maniac, because she's full-on child energy. So let me explain to you what these 5 pieces are. And I want your audience to be very careful that they aren't like, oh, that's me, I'm this. Because there is also a 6. The 6th navigation type is the chameleon. It means you become whoever other people need you to be, and you get stuck in that identity, and it literally traumatizes you at the cellular level. So these are the 5 navigation types. The first is the giver. Their purpose on this planet is to take care of themselves first so that they are strong and grounded in caregiving for others. Their responsibility, their promise to source was literally to look after everybody else. The taker energy is the visionary. Their promise to source was to see the big picture and how all of the details fit together, and to lead us through this path called human being. The egalitarian, which is the most challenging of all of the navigation types, is the equalizer. They are here to be the neutral witness. Their promise to source was to bring balance back to this planet through fairness, equality, and justice. And then there's the parent energy. Their purpose is to teach others how to do it. They lead by example. They're not here to do it for us, rather to show us the way. And then there's the child energy. They are the entertainment. Their purpose on this planet is to remind us that we are supposed to be having fun. We didn't come here as a punishment. This is an earth school. We're here to have fun and learn the lessons of being a sovereign individual that has thoughts, feelings, and experiences. And so each of us is one, just one of these navigation types. And when we chameleon into who others need us to be, it's usually because during our childhood, one of our parents needed us to be the opposite of what they are. So each individual has an equal, an opposite, and a nemesis, except for egalitarian. All of us are their nemesis. Their equal and opposite are other egalitarians. They need to have that balance factor, that flexibility. You are parent energy. It means that your purpose on this planet is to teach others how to do it, to lead by example. Your ideal intimate partner is child energy. Our intimate partners are our greatest teachers and our greatest students. You're here, if you're in alignment with your partner, as parent energy, you're here to teach them responsibility, but they're here to remind you not to take life so seriously.
Gotcha.
If you're not with your ideal partner, That's okay. It just means there's going to be work. If you're with your ideal partner, there's less work. The ideal partnership is parent-child and giver-taker, egalitarian. We all also have an ideal co-creator. This is our best friend, our business partner. For you, your best friend or business partner is taker. They see the big picture and how all the details fit together, but you know how to make it happen. You're detail oriented, you're organized, you're excited to teach others what they need to do. The energy of that activates for you your creativity, which we call your power energy. When you are a giver, your ideal intimate love partner is taker, and your co-creator is child. Your nemesis is parent. So for you, your nemesis is giver. You will chameleon into giver to get what you need. The giver will chameleon into parent to get what they need. The taker's ideal opposite is giver. Their ideal co-creator is parent, and their nemesis is child. Child energy is just not serious enough for the taker, and so on and so forth.
Okay, so these are all best matches. But if we get this reading or different things and we figure out, oopsie, like if my partner doesn't match, it doesn't mean, oh, I got to like find all new relationships. No, it means you have the information, so you know how to make those relationships work better. Right? I don't want everyone to think you got to start ditching everybody because you figured out you're a parent and you married a taker or whatever, a giver or whatever.
Yeah. So let's look at it like this. Let's look at it in culture. If your first language is English, it's going to be easier if your partner's first language is also English. But if you fall in love with someone who is Japanese and you learn Japanese and they learn English, you're going to figure it out. It's just not going to be as simple. There's going to be moments when there's a disconnection because those nuances are bigger. However, if we were in alignment, 10 generations ago, the grandparents were teaching the grandchildren. They literally matched the children with one another. We call that arranged marriage now and think it's horrible. They matched them at a very young age because their divine assignments interconnected, and that was their destiny.
So they were more tapped into intuition and going with what they know to be true. Before we go into our fear story, which is the next section of this. So I am a female feminine parent. And this is what she told me at the end of that part of the reading. Okay, because this is going through it in order of how you do your reading. Listen, you guys, I'm letting you in on my sessions here. These are private sessions. So I promised you guys that I would be honest and vulnerable with you guys too. So this is what she told 2 years ago. And I think I'm able to share these with you now because I've done that work in the last 2 years. So I'm not in the same place I was when she told me this. So I'm going to let you listen.
I know this is going to be hard to hear. And I've almost said it a couple times, and your ego energy just pushes at me. But I have to say, you're not here to take care of everybody else.
I've heard that before. No, yeah.
You're here to teach them to take care of themselves. And how that has to start is by you choosing you. And that doesn't have to be in drastic ways like ending relationships or stopping being kind and compassionate. It does mean, though, setting some sort of boundary that says, I can't do that anymore. I won't do that anymore. But here's the really big piece that your ego wants me to shut up and mind my own business about, and I won't. You're going to have to learn to ask for help, but then receive the help. How does that feel?
Uncomfortable. I like the sound of it. It's a good plan. And I've been working on boundaries, actually. You know what I mean? And not doing as much for others. Yeah.
Good. So it's a little bit more than not doing as much for others. It's about doing more for you and not going into a place of guilt and blame around that.
Okay. Yeah.
So if nothing else, I want you to imagine that your soul is coming to you and saying, what about me? And you're allowed to say that too. What about me? And it starts with you.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So your divine assignment is female, feminine, parent. What does that mean? You're here on a mission to learn as much about yourself as possible. Find something that you can receive from this knowledge, create what you're going to share, and share your wisdom with the world. It doesn't matter if that's knitting pot coasters or if it's saving the world. It doesn't matter what that is, but it's your version, and you're sharing you with the world.
Okay, guys, that's what I got 2 years ago. Oh, yeah. And look where I am now, 2 years later, sharing my things. Yeah. So, yeah. And I will tell you that it hits differently now than 2 years ago, because 2 years ago, no, I was needing to do that. And I think a lot of women in middle age are at that same place. We've taken care of others so much and tried to, I was that one that always was going to jump in front of the train before it hit somebody. Like, oh, no, I got this. I got this. And that really wasn't helping them or me, is what I've come to realize. Right. So sometimes that train has to hit. You can't save everybody. And a lot of times you're sacrificing a part of yourself in the process. Between back when I had this reading and now, yeah, I've done some of that work to let the emotions come up and feel them and go through it. And it's not fun. I'm not going to act like it's been a great trip this whole time, but it's brought me to a much better place. So, yeah.
And that place is closer and closer and closer to alignment.
And I feel more aligned now. And I know I'm not done. I mean, obviously there's plenty of work always to do, but I feel like I'm heading in the right direction at least.
This is a very common space, Jen, for a lot of mid-age women who were raised in that 6,000 years of patriarchal generational trauma, is that we get into a state of spiritual disconnection, but we don't know it. And especially if we're called to, spirituality as it's laid out right now. No, I meditate, I do yoga, I love energy medicine. That's all great, except what's underlying that calling to the energy medicine, to the yoga, to the meditation is the spiritual disconnection. It starts with feeling uninspired. And if we stay in that uninspired state because we don't immediately recognize this isn't for me, I'm on the wrong path, we go into self-sabotage. We start creating habits and patterns that just keep repeating the out of alignment energy as though it's our nutrition. And that shifts us into the space where you were at, unable to receive, because there's this imposter syndrome voice that says, no, I'm here to take care of everybody. I'm the savior. I'm not worthy of being saved. And then that shifts into the lowest frequency and vibration. Anger, which is depression, which is stuck in the past, or worry, which is anxiety, which is stuck in the future. And so we're literally robbing ourselves of being in this present moment, and we're pretending that we're spiritually connected because we have all of these ways in which we are proving that we're taking care of ourselves. At the end of the day, though, we're not listening to our calling. We don't believe we're worthy of the magic that we truly are. And it takes a lot of us to be midlife, especially those of you who were blessed to be mothers or parents. because you have this patriarchal bullshit rule that says when they're okay, then it will be my time. And that is the poison. That's the poison of toxic patriarchy, of toxic masculinity.
Yeah. So we just all have to start, like I said before, like being our authentic selves. And we have to take care of ourselves and then others.
Yes. And here's the coolest truth about spiritualism, not spirituality, spiritualism. Spiritualism is a lifestyle. If you have a daily spiritual practice that cleanses and purifies your 3 sacred centers, which is your pineal, your God brain, or your ego filter. The second is your heart, your soul, your emotion. The third is your biome, your hara, your body brain. If you have a process that's cleansing and purifying those 3 sacred centers, your chakras, which are actually sacred guides that speak your first language and are telling your body through your soul exactly what you need to know, if they're cleansed and purified, and the 4 main energy bodies, your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies, have no leaks, then you can only be in alignment. You aren't controlled and compelled by the collective energy, by what your partner says or does, what your children need. You are anchored into your own self. But if we don't have that daily practice, then we aren't spiritually showering. Can you imagine going days, weeks, months, years, decades without brushing your teeth or washing your hair? That's how important that spiritual shower is. And I'll share this with you later, but about 8 years ago, I created a proprietary energy medicine technique from all of the gifts that had been channeled to me. I teach it over 21 days as a quest, but at the end of it, it's a 90-second daily routine that activates ego, soul, and body, each of the 7 main chakra and the 4 biofields. And so you are cleansed and purified in 90 seconds. And that's the essential piece that's missing. When we are spiritually disconnected, 3 things happen. We don't have a spiritual shower or that daily practice every 24 hours. We don't have a community of like-minded people on the same path of self-mastery helping us be accountable. And we don't seek out expert mentorship and guidance because we think we have to do it by ourselves.
Well, I've said many a times we need help. We need to find the people to help us. You can do it on your own, but boy, is it way more of a struggle.
Sure. My journey was 17 years, from completely raging and broken to remembering exactly who I am and being exactly who I am. 17 years.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And so part of my purpose from my 20s to my 40s was channeling as much information as possible so that for other people, that 17 years can be 18 months. Anyone who thinks that their dark night of the soul is going to be a 3-day weekend and everything's going to change is literally delusional. And they're completely out of alignment. And it won't change for them because it's a lifetime of work. It's called self-mastery. And when that work is over, our soul takes a deep final breath and leaves our body. And so we don't want that work to be over just yet.
No, we got stuff to do. Okay, so the second part of it during the soul reveal reading is our fear story. So let's talk a little bit about our fear story and explain to everyone, because I know it has a lot to do with generational trauma. So explain to everyone what generational trauma kind of means.
Let me just start by explaining this, because that question is like a 3.5-hour answer.
I know.
So when you sign up for your soul reveal reading, you get an online container in my self-awareness community. And in that container, you get a whole bunch of education that lets you know exactly everything I'm sharing. Like the short answer to what you've just asked is literally a 38-minute video. And so I'm going to make it really short, but I want you guys to know that the Soul Reveal reading isn't, oh, come and spend 50 minutes with Tracy and she's going to give you this information. It's an online container of education. It is some self-growth work. And then it is an offer for me to be your spiritual guide and mentor. And so I want you to imagine that Soul Reveal reading is one of 3 parts of what we call the Human Being User Manual. The reading itself gives you the work that you're here to do. So the divine assignments, there are 3 of them. And the fear stories, there are 3 of them. And we're about to get into that. But we also have a power and a trigger energy, which is the activation of our true self, and a series of love stories. And so this is literally a map. Your positive polarity is your power and your love stories. Your negative polarity is your trigger and your fear stories. And so it's literally a map that I teach you how to use. And then should you decide to graduate out of Soul Reveal reading into the second part of Human Being User Manual, we channel all those other pieces, and then we reprogram your truth into what we call the 12 Earth lessons. So self has 5 lessons: your physical well-being, your emotional competence, your mental capacity, your spiritual connection, and your character. We program all of those to your divine assignment, to your map. And then there are 3 influential others. We reprogram your intimate love relationship, your parent-child relationship, and your social infrastructure. So the other people that influence you are now in alignment with your higher frequency and vibration. And then finally, we reprogram your life, your career, your finances, your quality of life, and your vision for the future. This is called self-mastery. And then the third part is Earth School. We spend a whole year in each of those areas, mastering them to make our life unlike we could have possibly imagined the year before. So the Soul Reveal reading is one of 3 parts.
Yeah, that's just the beginning. So bottom line, like that's the beginning, and then you started on all the work after that.
And you're not alone in that work. We have a community. I am your mentor and guide. And then there are also expert teachers that support you in the community. And so let's go back to that first part. So we are standing at the precipice of space and time, and Source says, what do you want to do? And you say, I want to take physical form. I want to go to the 3rd dimension called Earth energy, and I want to be part of the solution in any way possible. And Source says, okay, well, what is your promise? What are you going to go there to experience? This is your power. And God is what I would call that divine intelligence. God says, beautiful promise, Tracy. Now, in order to get there, you have to go through the conception to birth process. So you need to choose her. You need to choose your biological mother. And so I go through this Akashic record library of all possible souls that are on the timeline when I want to go, and I find her and I read her story and I find out she's going to choose him. And I'm like, yes, this is exactly what I want. And they together, your biological parents together, become your trigger. Our trigger is how we learn to be in our promise, how we learn to be on purpose. And so by choosing our biological parents, we choose up to 6 generations of trauma. So imagine the second that your great grandmother was born, inside of her is an egg. That egg is your grandmother, the second she was born. Around that is an ovum. That's going to be your mother. And a cell on that ovum is you. And so that cell that is going to form your body and your life has literally experienced everything that your mother, your grandmother, and your great-grandmother have experienced. But that doesn't just happen with the egg, it also happens with the sperm. So when her story and his story intermingle and are created as a cellular activity in her being, your soul spark drops into that cell. And now here you are. You have a promise that you're going to keep to source. You have a trigger, which is your generational trauma. You have these 3 divine assignments that are supported by a love story that you don't know yet, but also are triggered by this fear story. This fear story has 3 parts. First, your biological mother's generational trauma. For everybody, this story is, it's really hard to be human. And it's a singular word that has a frequency and vibration that elicits fear within you. The purpose of that fear is not a punishment. It's to say, if I'm experiencing this fear, then I'm not in alignment. So your first fear story aligns with your first divine assignment. Your second fear story is your biological father's generational trauma. And for everyone, this is the story that we're alone and we're unprotected. It aligns with your second divine assignment. And your third fear story is the womb trauma. While you're in the womb, something happens. It's a minute millisecond, or it's the whole time you're there. But it doesn't even happen to you. It happens to her. And you grab a hold of it and you're like, I am never going to be this. But you didn't let go of it. And it became your greatest fear, the evidence that you're bad. It's your kryptonite. So every single time the rug has been pulled out from under you, this is it. And what's really cool about these pieces of information is that you have 3 visceral experiences that are providing the answer to how you get in alignment. There are not a million possible ways that you're taken out of alignment. There are only 3. And we have the name of those for you. Are you comfortable if I share yours?
Yeah, I have a little. You want me to play my little clip first or after?
Yeah, I'd love it.
All right, I have a little clip. This is after we went through my maternal, paternal, all of my little traumas here. And this is what.
When you experience envy and you aren't aware of it, it's poisoning you. When you experience guilt and blame and you avoid or ignore it, it's poisoning you. When you go into those states of self-esteem, you are going into what I call spiritual disconnection, self-sabotage, depression, anxiety, physical pain. And so, as simple as this sounds, this is the truth. All it takes to heal all of that is acknowledging these pieces. When you experience envy, guilt, and blame, and self-esteem, to just recognize them, to take a breath and to slow down, to remember that you are here to teach others and that you're here on a mission to share your wisdom with the world.
Okay, so that was kind of after we went through each one of them. So mine, clearly I had guilt, I had envy, guilt, and blame, which both kind of combined into like some self-esteem stuff is what I got from mine. So tell me your take on whether it's mine or just all of the different ways, all of the different fear stories we can have.
So there are a potential. So in the divine assignment, there's a potential of 2. You're either one or the other. In your first divine assignment, you're male or female. Your second divine assignment, you're masculine or feminine. Your third divine assignment, give or take, or egalitarian parent-child. In the fear stories, there are 22 generational traumas. So you are one of 22 generational traumas in each of these areas. And again, they intermingle. They're not a punishment. When you experience envy, and I'll give you, these are metaphysical definitions. They are not the social definition. So, for example, envy. Let me just grab it. Envy is an internal, unconscious mental program of your thoughts that make you wish you could just be, do, or have what seems to come easy for others. Nothing works out the way you've planned it if you're out of alignment. So that's created the belief that you don't deserve to have it all. Envy is accompanied by a lack of awareness, esteem, and abundance. It results in uncontrollable self-sabotage, including but not limited to procrastination, chronic worry, an inability or an obsession with being on time, intimacy issues, stress eating, and substance abuse. Envy will require some external numbing of the body and the mind as a way to avoid, ignore, and escape that can lead to addiction to TV and social media, food, shopping, drugs, alcohol, or sex. And so what I want you to understand about this is the second you recognize anything I've just described, it's not a punishment and it's not who you are. It's a generational trauma saying, please heal this. And how you heal that, because it's your first fear story, is you get back into alignment with your feminine. So envy only, capital bolded, underlined, envy only shows up for you if you're in male energy, if you're being task oriented, if you're learning and sharing, learning and doing. But when you learn and process for yourself and you create a new way of embodying it, of explaining it, and you share that wisdom, there's no way you can go into that self-sabotage. Okay? And that's the same with the others. So if your second divine assignment is feminine, it means that you need to move at a pace that is slow and gentle. You need to feel before you think. You need to be present in the moment. You need to allow what you're creating to arrive. And when you don't, you go into guilt and blame. Guilt says everything's my fault and I have to fix it. Blame says nothing's my fault and you better fix it. And so if you get into that state, you're chameleoning as masculine. You're doing too much. You're going too fast. You're out of alignment. And it simply is, oh, this is guilt and blame. I'm not in alignment. I need to slow down. It's that easy. Like that's the healing right there.
Really? All right. So we're not talking about that you have to dig up all of your past traumas, your childhood trauma, whatever. No, this is more about the fear factors can be healed. I don't know if I'm saying this right, but the fear factors can be healed by making sure you're on the right divine assignment path. So really just being true to yourself, being true to your actual soul's assignment and who you essentially are will heal the fear factors.
Jen, what if you have someone working for you whose job, and I'm being dramatic, so please bear with me, whose job is to smack you in the face every time you swear?
Okay. Oh God, I'll be in pain.
Me too. But if that person starts walking towards you and you see them in the distance, you're like, ooh, I think I was about to swear. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
That's the fear stories. They've literally been hired by divine intelligence to do whatever they have to do, whether it's a gentle nudge or a gigantic punch in the face.
Okay.
To keep us in alignment with our truth. The challenge is 10 generations ago, the grandparents stopped teaching what these negative experiences meant. And the parents and the grandparents and the great-grandparents and the great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents have been carrying around a backpack of this trauma, passing it on to us as though this was our legacy. Fear is not our legacy. It's a guide.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me this. I've heard people say, and I think you've mentioned this too. Okay. By us doing the work now, by us healing these things, right? We're healing generations after us and before us. Is that right? My mind can wrap around that I'm healing future generations because at a cellular level, you know, my grandkids, on and on, this has been healed. But how are we healing behind us?
Yeah, that's a great question. In my soul healing protocol, I actually do 5 treatments before we start the human being user manual, where from your cellular memory, we cut the cords and we heal the leaks of the surface of the generational trauma, the root of the generational trauma, your surface habits and beliefs, and the root of your habits and beliefs. So you have a clear biofield. So imagine you're going to a crowded concert. Your parents and your grandparents are coming. Your children and your grandchildren are coming. You tie a rope around your waist, and each of them are tied to that rope. It's impossible for you to lose each other. You're tied by that rope. That's generational trauma. And so when you cut that rope from you, you're telling them to release their grip on it. And as they release their grip on it, that energy falls away because it is you that is carrying it. And so when we do generational trauma psychic surgery, we're clearing 2 generations on both sides. So if you have a child, whether they've had a child or not, the sperm or egg lives inside of them. So you're healing your grandchild too. But if you have a child who's had a child and you're doing this work, you're healing your children, your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren because the sperm and egg is alive and well within them.
Okay, gotcha. So by us doing the work, we're just not doing it for ourselves, you guys. We're doing it for all our generations.
And I like to call that being of enormous benefit just by showing up. Because I do my work, I am affecting generations of no longer carrying this trauma.
Yes. So I told you guys I played some clips. I did this whole soul reveal reading a couple of years ago. So here's what I do when I have a reading. I'll record it. They'll send me the recording, whatever. So I'll sit with it after a reading, you guys, and then I'll listen to it back and I'll journal at the same time. And so it's almost like I'm writing my own cliff notes for my reading. Okay, what stood out to me? What do I really want to remember if I just want to flip back to it? You know, because we don't all have a time to listen to our hour-long reading all the time. So I make my own little cliff notes of what jumped out for me. And I went back before our interview so that I could see like what were my cliff notes on this one, right? And so the thing that stood out to me, and I wrote it in all capital letters in my journal, believe it or not, and it said, "Until I heal, there will be no resolution with others." And that was one of my biggest takeaways, I think, because when I went back to look at the journal, and it kind of, you know, everything we talked about kind of centered around this, right? You have to take care of yourself first, stop taking care of others, slow down. But that was a big takeaway. And also, and we won't go into this, but as a side note, Tracy was one of the first ones to notice that she thought I could channel and that I could channel angels. She was one of the first ones to tell me that. And I kind of didn't believe her, you guys. Like she was telling me about, she could see this light flapping behind me. I was like, yeah, no, there's a window behind me. I totally was like, okay, you know, because our ego, our conscience tries to figure things out. Like, no, that wasn't spiritual. That was the window. That was the sun just peeking through. So I really wasn't totally on board with it when Tracy told me, but I jotted it down. Right. And then as things have progressed, I'm like, okay, yeah, that wasn't the light in the window, was it? So yeah, you can get a lot of things out of these readings, you guys, by giving her permission again to go in and tell you some of these things she's seeing because you're intuitive. You're tapping into the Akashic. You're interpreting it through your own intuition. And so a reading, I think people misunderstand sometimes that readings and these sessions are just about talking with our departed loved ones. No, it's not. No, that's just the tip of the iceberg, right? There are teams, our spiritual team waiting to share things with us so that we can stay and complete the plan we had, right? When we came to this old 3D earth. And do you think we're all here? I've been hearing a lot like we're here because we were meant to be here for this transition.
We were so brave that we like pushed our way to the front of the line and said, I promise that I will do this work. And those of us that everything here has to be balanced. If there was 100 of us that came, 50 of us are going to do enormous beneficial work. But the other 50 have the courage to be like, yeah, we're going to just swear word this place up. You may very well have fallen in love with someone. I did. I'm crazy in love with my husband. He's my rock, but he doesn't believe in any of this. He is unwilling to do any spiritual work.
That's the thing. We've said this before, we don't need a partner that does everything exactly like we do. That's probably not even beneficial. We need someone to balance our energy out. Like my husband, same. He's not like, won't do anything. He's not woo woo like I am now. You know what I mean? But he doesn't need to be. I don't push him to be. I don't need him to be, right? Because we balance each other out properly. And that's how it works. So, and even as we think about all of especially with all the crazy, we have a lot of, political stuff here in the US going on, Tracy. And so the thing is too, we need to always remember that we were all sent here with a purpose and there's balance. We can't all be kumbaya, woo woo. We got to have people that are on the other side of it. So instead of just judging everyone like, oh, they're a terrible person, they're the problem. No, maybe we're just all part of the solution, balancing each other out.
And here's the coolest part of that, Jen. If you have someone in your life who is swear word driving you nuts, if you shift the perspective of thank you, because the degree into which they aren't is the exact degree into which you are. So if you're like, I am the light and they are so dark, why do I keep attracting them? Because the natural law of polarity says there has to be the equal amount of light to the equal amount of darkness to be in alignment. And so we've been corrupted with good and bad. There's no such thing as good and bad. Negative energy isn't bad. It's pulling out excess energy to create balance. Positive energy isn't good. It's putting in energy to create balance. So the more extreme the dark, the more extreme the light.
If you feel like you're all love and light, that doesn't mean you gotta find the darkest partner you can find. No, that's not what we're saying.
Well, hold on. Light and dark aren't good and bad either. You want a partner who is the exact equal amount of opposite for you. And so for me, I spend, I work Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. I'm with patients all day doing psychic surgery, doing bioenergetic trauma release, doing soul reveal reading. And I teach inside of my community, the self-awareness community. I have a subscription membership called the Healer's Sanctuary. I teach 6 classes a week. And so I'm in this gigantic amount of light. I am that gigantic amount of light for those 12 hours. But I also have a day, which for me is Wednesday, which I call my spiritual maintenance day, where I have to be the opposite of that. I don't meditate. I don't do energy work. I don't channel information for people. I get to sleep. I get to play. I get to read. I get to dance. I get to be in Mother Nature. It's the balance of that.
It's the balance. Okay. Yeah. It's all about the balance.
For sure.
God, I love that.
Can I wrap us up back into that soul reveal reading so we don't kind of just leave it hanging?
Yes. Let's do that.
So if we have 3 divine assignments and we have 3 fear stories, the fear story's purpose is to come to us. We don't want it to get too close, but we want to get it close enough to us that we recognize that we're in those. So for you, that's envy, guilt and blame, or self-esteem. If you recognize any of those, the most subtlest of those showing up, and that's your work, you've got to figure out, what does it look and feel like for me to be in that? What triggers that? How am I going to be aware of that? So that your response can be, oh, thank you, friend. Thank you for showing me. If self-esteem shows up, you're not in alignment with your parent energy. You've chameleoned into that giver, and that's not your truth. And so all of a sudden, you have the first part of your divine blueprint, and it's a learning tool. And so when we do the soul reveal reading, it's Zoom. It's live one-on-one with me. It takes about 50 minutes. I ask for permission to come into your biofield. I clear any entities, attachments, and non-beneficial energies. I bring you into a sanctuary called Hansha Shonen. You might recognize that if you know Reiki. And I channel your Akashic records through your pineal, your heart, and your biome. And when I get into your spiritual bioenergetic field, I call soul and ego together. I align them within your body. And, it's different for everybody. So I'll make up this one scenario that does happen, but it's different for everybody. I am literally sitting in a gigantic chair. Your soul, ego, and body is directly from me. You turn into a book, and I get to read the book. And so I want to know, what is your truth? Is it true that you're male or female, masculine or feminine? Is it true that you are one of those navigation types? And then, which of the 22 fear stories show up? So for female, as I'm literally talking to your energy, in walks envy. Oh, okay. And then there's a visceral response in your body that says to me, that's the fear story. And so we channel that information. I also go through what the sacred guides are in terms of the chakras. We have an others guide and a self guide in our body that shares information. I unite you with that energy, and I share with you what this reading means. And here's the cool part of this gift that I have. I'm not interpreting anything. I'm telling you exactly what I read. So, if you had the ability to read it, you wouldn't need me, but it would be the exact interpretation. There's a couple times, and it happened with you, that ego starts to fight me, like that energy starts to push back. You're not sharing that information. And that happens because ego is comfortable in the chaos and the out of alignment.
Yes, my ego was a little bossy 2 years ago. Yeah. No, we got to pay attention to this stuff. Yeah.
This is recorded. Your divine assignment is recorded. And when you get the recording, you will get a link back into the container to do the growth work, should you choose to do it. You get a complimentary integration session if you choose to book it. And there is an invitation to join my online community called the Healer's Sanctuary. It's a subscription-based community. It's $38 a month. But in it, we have an Oracle Cafe. We have an empath support group. We have a weekly metaphysical messages. It's a 90-minute session where I read the messages and interpret them from your body. That happens 4 times a month. We have Qigong. And every single day, there is a live daily check-in. So you can come and ask questions. You can get energy healing. We do Reiki healing circles to support you. But what's most important about this $38 a month investment is the 21-day quest called Activate Your Power, where I teach you a 90-second treatment over 21 days, all included for $38, to activate your pineal, your heart, and your biome, your 7 main chakra, and your 4 bioenergetic fields. And so this sanctuary is a space for women called to energy work, for themselves first, possibly for others later, but to be in alignment with their truth, to walk a path of self-mastery in a community of other like-minded and like-hearted individuals with expert, masterful mentors.
Okay, because it's not just you, because like you said, you do 3 days a week, but you have all kinds of other people that, healers and that facilitate a lot of this too. And this is all online, you guys. So it does not matter where you're located, right? Tracy's in Canada, correct?
Correct.
But US, wherever, because that's the beauty of online now, of technology. We can all get together no matter where we're at and from the comfort of our own homes. Is the soul reveal reading a good beginning for everyone? Like if they're feeling a connection with you, if they're feeling called to this, is that the best thing to book first?
Sure. So let me answer it this way. A part of my purpose on this planet is to make self-mastery affordable. I wish I could do it for free, but we still live in that patriarchy where I too have to eat and live. But the soul reveal reading is $179. It's Canadian plus HST or US dollars, depending on where you live. And it is the most empowering place to start because it gives you your exact unique answers right away. But if $179 is not available to you, then the community is $38. For $1.27 a day, you get daily spiritual mentorship. You are never alone again. You get energy medicine every single time you engage with me. In my Self-Awareness Academy, I train bioenergetic therapists. So the experts on my panel have all gone through my 3-year program. They are trained in psychic surgery. They are trained in reading the biofield, and they each have their own expertise. Donna leads our empath support group. Julia leads our Oracle Cafe. Shirley leads our Reiki circle. Christopher leads our Qigong, which is a physical manifestation of a spiritual practice. And Daniela leads our Sacred Sundays. And so it's a really masterful group of mentors for $38. It's unheard of.
No, because we can spend $38 these days real quick. I mean, that won't even get us a small cart of groceries. Like $38, we can spend that quick. We can drive through and get a meal for our families and spend more. You're going to spend more than $38. So this is an investment in yourself, which is what I like about all these different programs and apps and everything else available now, is like you're investing in yourself, which kind of goes back to what you were telling me I needed to do anyway. Right? When I bold-faced whatever. Oh my gosh. Okay. So this is a great start. So if you're feeling led, you guys, we always talk about going with your own intuition. If something resonates with you, if an episode resonates with you, that's who you should reach out to. Okay. And like she said, it's not just Tracy. She's got a whole team. She's got a whole team ready to help you guys get going on this midlife spiritual journey. So it's a great place to start. And listen, Tracy and I barely hit the iceberg on this stuff. She knows, you guys, because she's got her own type of therapy, this BETR therapy. She's also recently, you've gotten you've gotten your certification in psychedelic assisted therapies?
Yes.
I'll
write that down if you'd like to. So I'm Tracy. I'm a doctor of metaphysical psychology. My foundation is Reiki. I'm a Reiki master teacher. I focus on teaching bioenergetic therapists how to be in service, to be of enormous benefit without draining themselves. I hold space for spiritual seekers who want to walk the path of self-mastery. I graduated in December 21st in 900 of my 1,000-hour shamanic apprentice program. So it's my heart and soul is in shamanic energy, and I'm a psychedelic assisted therapist. So I am licensed to treat and to diagnose depression, anxiety, acute stress, and chronic pain with psilocybin. I cannot distribute. However, I do have that ability. And as a channel, I channel the Archangel Uriel, the Egyptian goddess Ma'at. And it's through Uriel that I've been able to begin to channel the psychedelic assisted therapy. So you could be sitting where you are, Jen, and I'm here, and you choose to do a psychedelic assisted therapy session. And I can literally channel the psilocybin into your body, and you have a very mild psychedelic experience that unlocks keys and codes within your biofield. And so there's a lot that I do as a doctor of metaphysics, as a shaman, and as the mentor in the Healer Sanctuary.
Okay, so we have a lot of different paths we can take here. There's an answer. If you're wondering if there's an answer for you out there to get help with all of this, there is. There definitely is. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, listen, you're going to have to come back again because nobody wants to stay here with us for 10 hours. So I know that, but I know people are thinking, oh, I want to hear more about all of that, all of the different therapies and different ways. Once we get all this knowledge, we can start healing and opening and moving on and continue down our path where we were meant to. And this is, I've been telling everybody, the word on the old spiritual streets is that this is a big year, 2025, and we're going to feel it. And so this is a year we might need a little help getting through the whole year as we open up to all of these new things and we head into a higher vibration.
If there's one thing that I'd like to say to everyone, it's that we have already arrived at that higher vibration, and we need to cut those cords of attachment that are keeping us at a low frequency. And we can only do that by knowing ourselves from our true and authentic self, which is soul, ego, and body aligned as one. And so whatever it is that you focus on this year, make sure that it's a new book. It's not a new chapter. It's not a different polished version of your same self. It's a whole new book where you've cut that cord of lower vibration and you've given yourself permission to elevate. And to remember, there are 3 reasons that we don't elevate. We don't have a daily spiritual shower. We don't have a community that supports us and keeps us accountable. And we don't have expert mentorship.
Okay, so those are the 3 things that will be essential for us to continue raising our own vibrations so that we can manifest and have all the things that we're looking to have, right? Like I told you guys in another episode, our only real job that I was getting through is just for each of us to be our authentic selves. And that's what we got to figure out. What is our authentic selves? And this is a perfect time here in the dead of winter to get started on all this, right? Because spring's coming. Yeah. And in our own spiritual journey too, where we can all start to bloom and figure out what we're supposed to be. Yeah. Because I learned 2 years ago that I wasn't walking the right path. And so things have only gotten better since I have worked towards switching back to those things, like that feminine energy that I had ditched out of survival mode. Well, Tracy, thank you so much. You're going to have to come back and dive deeper because I know people are going to have so many questions. And you guys, you know that everything is in the show notes to link to her. So you could find all of these academies, all of these sessions she's talking about. You can read more about Tracy. And I think it even, like a lot of it shows about all your team too, like get information about some of your team. If this resonates with you, you should definitely click these links below and get started on this process. I played some of my clips for you so you can see it's a really, you don't have to be scared. It's just a chill environment. You know what I mean? Like she's just going to talk to you about you and nobody else even has to know you're doing this work yet. If you're not ready to come out of the old spiritual closet, that's okay too. You just get a start on it. Get to know yourself. All right. Thanks, Tracy.
And I welcome anyone to reach out with any questions. Please be patient. I'm with clients 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. I take Wednesday off to be with myself, but Friday is my admin day. I will get back to you. Please don't hesitate to ask.
Yes. Everything's in the show notes. Yeah. So you guys will have all the links to get right to Tracy if you feel so led right now. All right. Thanks, Tracy.
Thank you, Gwen.
Listen, I know your time is valuable. And right now, I'm feeling super grateful and totally humbled that you chose to hang out with me today. If this podcast resonates with you, could you do me a solid and hit that subscribe or follow button? That's going to help you out because you're never going to miss an episode. And it helps me out because you're never going to miss an episode. And if you have like 30 seconds more, could you leave a 5-star rating and maybe leave a kick-ass review? Thank you so much. And I can't wait to continue our journey on the next episode. Oh, and I can't forget the fine print. You know, the legal jargon. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. We're just 2 friends on this journey together, and this podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or any other qualified professional. You get it. See you next time.